All Access, an inside look at what it takes to operate Iowa's largest entertainment and convention facilities. This is Iowa Events Center All Access from Iowa Everywhere.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of All Access here on the Iowa Everywhere Podcast Network, presented by the Iowa Event Center. Matt Van Winkle, Adam Flack, Director of Marketing at the Iowa Event Center, joins us for another episode. Adam, we have a fun episode planned for our listeners today, don't we?
We do. It's all sports all the time, I think so, with Chris Cuellar. I mean, you go, big sports weekend this past weekend with the Super Bowl and seeing you at the Drake game, and now you get into the state tournaments with Chris, so that should be a good episode.
Yeah, it was great seeing you over at the Knapp Center on Saturday. The Drake men, the 22 wins now, the most winningest team in NCAA right now. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's incredible. It was a good game too. Got to overtime. They gave up a lead late, and Indiana State played a lot better than I think they did when they played at Indiana State. So, but man, Sturtz is such a solid ball player. He never gets too high or too low, and that crowd was good. It's a good, intimate place to watch a basketball game.
Absolutely. Drake runs the Missouri Valley right now. It'll be fun to see what they can do in Arch Madness, and hopefully can get to the NCAA tournament and join Iowa State men in the big dance. So we'll see. It's basketball season. Again, we're going to talk about some of that with Chris Cuellar as it relates to the prep side of things coming up in just a little bit. But we want to remind people of some things coming up at the Iowa Event Center Wells Fargo Arena this week. We've got basketball and hockey once again. The Iowa Wolves are in action with games Tuesday. It's Education Day. That's an early game, 10:30, and then Thursday they got their Galentine's Day evening game. So early game and a late game for the Wolves.
Early game and late game. You can get down here on a Tuesday morning and have your lunch while you're watching the Wolves play. You're going to have to endure, 5,000 to 6,000 screaming kids that are all here from getting out of school to come watch the game. But it's always a fun game because it's such a different atmosphere when you come into an Education Day game than you would get in any other Iowa Wolves game. It's just so many kids that are, standing up and hollering and watching the video board. And it's really fun to be a part of. And then, you come back Thursday night and have a good promotion with Galentine's Day. I think it's Women Empowerment Night too, with another game. So if you don't want to endure the early game, you can always come back Thursday.
Nice. Iowa Wolves in action, as we mentioned, Tuesday, Thursday. Then we flip over to hockey. Iowa Wild got games Friday and Saturday. They kind of leaning into this Valentine's Day theme as well. They got the Love and the Wild night on Friday, and then Saturday they've got the Pink and the Rink game. So a little bit of everything going on with basketball and hockey. And our friends at the Iowa Wild have some great promotions as well.
Always a big weekend with Pink in the Rink. So that's they do a great job with that game. And, the Friday night game, you get a Cupid Crash giveaway. I think it's a Cupid Crash bobblehead maybe. Nice. So get down here Friday or Saturday and enjoy some hockey.
Nice. Cool. Busy time around the event center. I'm actually going to be down there this weekend. I'm going to be there Friday and Saturday over at the Community Choice Convention Center, Adam. I'm actually going to be emceeing the Cardinal and Gold Gala for the Iowa State Alumni Association. So,
oh, nice.
It'll be fun. I obviously work at the Alumni Association. I've emceed it for the last couple of years, and my good friend Brent Bloom is going to be up there with me. So it'll be a fun night for Iowa State fans coming down to the Community Choice Credit Union Convention Center.
Man, one of 7 galas that we have in February alone. So, I mean, that, this time of year, you're getting a lot of the fundraising type galas that are happening. You mentioned the Cardinal and Gold Gala. You mentioned the Heart Ball on Saturday that you're going to be attending as well.
Yeah.
Last weekend, we had Bravo, which is always a huge one down in the EMC Expo Center. In the 2 main exhibit halls, they decorate that really well. So it's a fun month for galas. Our food and beverage team is busy, but that means it's going to be a busy weekend down here with the games going on in the arena, the galas over here, the Home and Garden Show also going on. So make sure to plan plenty of time to get down here and find a place to park and walk up to the facility.
Absolutely great to mention and shout out. You mentioned the food team, the hospitality team that you guys have there. Incredible food that you guys have at your events, your galas down there. You guys cater so many different events, and you have a lot of staff that moves people in and out there. So good chance to shout them out too.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. And, these types of events are the ones where they get to be the most creative, when you're working with the meeting planner saying, "Yeah, I want something different. What's a cardinal and gold dessert we can have, or what's a signature drink that we can really tie into the heart ball?" Or, those types of conversations are what they thrive on, and coming up with some unique items. So, whether it be, the Iowa pork producer is always doing a pork lunch and trying to figure out a new way to serve that lunch year after year, all the way to these events this weekend.
Yeah, everything I've heard too, your staff over there is amazing to work with. As you mentioned, they're very flexible and willing to work with different events that come through there on their menu and what they want to have for their guests. So really cool. Yeah, and as you mentioned, I'll be at the Heart Ball on Saturday. Always a great event down there for a good cause. So cool. I didn't know that was that many galas that you guys have in that period of time, but the Iowa Event Center is just it's a big space, and you can have a bunch of different events, and we'll get to some of those, obviously, in just a little bit. But, hey, we have, like you mentioned, a special guest. Chris Cuellar is going to be joining us here from the Iowa High School Athletic Association, the Communications Director. It's a really busy time for preps as we get into state tournament season.
Yeah, I can't imagine what they're going through, not only from, just executing the event, but everything that leads up to it and setting the postseason, matchups and all the stuff that they do just to get it prepared. And then you're hosting the regional tournaments at all these different facilities. So I look forward to hearing what Chris has to say about what's coming up.
All right, well, it is state tournament season, and we thought we'd bring in the perfect guy to talk about everything happening around Des Moines, Central Iowa with high school prep sports. Chris Cuellar, Communications Director for the Iowa High School Athletic Association, joins us for another year here on All Access. Chris, thanks for hopping in.
If you guys want to make this an annual thing, I'll just add it to my winter calendar. Let's do it.
That sounds great. So, Chris, you guys obviously had the state dual wrestling tournament. We'll talk about state wrestling coming to Wells Fargo Arena. We'll talk about the basketball tournaments coming up. But, Adam, I know that the state duels were over was it the state duels or the girls wrestling was over in your building over in Cedar Rapids? Both of them.
Yeah,
okay.
So both were held in Coralville at Extreme Arena, which is Oakview Group managed. So we like our friends over at the eastern side of the state. But Chris, how'd things go? I know girls wrestling was a couple days and boys was Saturday night, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're both so different in what they bring and similar crowds and similar audience in terms of wrestling. But I know they sold out almost the entire second day for the girls tournament. So there was a lot of energy at Extreme Arena for that. And then that kind of carried over into our state duels the day after. So we bring 24 teams, around 600 wrestlers in, and their fans basically make a whole day of it. It is one ticket good all day. It is like rolling sessions, but it's a lot of fun, and it really is a good way to kick off our winter tournaments. And Adam, as you know, the turnover that the staff there has to do, and it's all hands on deck, is pretty unbelievable, because that girls tournament goes till 10 or 11 at night, and we have new mats, cameras, scoring equipment, people coming in, and we are weighing in at 7:00 in the morning. So it's quite an undertaking over there.
Yeah, it's one of the unique things about having the Girls Athletic Union and the Boys Athletic Association that, you don't share a lot of the same equipment or mats and some of those things. So adds a layer to it. Do you think that layer is similar to or different than when we hosted duels here in Des Moines and then switched to the individual tournament the next day?
Just different. That felt like more of a dress rehearsal day for everyone involved. So you get it right. You get a little smaller crowd, most of the same kids and people that are going to be there all week long for the big show. And you get a chance to kind of get a feel for it. And then you were really in the weeds, as you know, for those 3 days. Back when it was 3 days of a state wrestling tournament. We're on the back side of it. So the opposite of a dress rehearsal, people are kind of coming down from the Friday night, and then we're hitting the mats, and there's 12 teams on the mat at 9:00 in the morning. So different feel, but still a lot of fun. And the venue fits that event very well.
Sure.
Extreme Arena, very nice. I think the crowd likes going to a different place. The schools on the eastern side of the state like that. And, it's been positive.
So you've got duels happening. Now this week we go back to individual districts, right? And regionals and qualifying for the state tournament. And then next week we get right into the state tournament. So you're really jamming those 3 weeks of state wrestling right in a row.
You don't even know. So also on Saturday at the same time as the state duels, we had district swim meets at 6 different high schools across the state. We took those results on Saturday night, published qualifiers, Yesterday, we had basketball rankings meetings because we release our 1A and 2A small school pairings brackets as soon as I hang up from this call. And then we'll dive back into wrestling mode. Yeah, district wrestling is the same day as the state swim meet. And the basketball playoffs also start on Friday night. So it is crossover season here, and we are all hands on deck.
Where's state swimming now? Is it
Iowa City, University of Iowa,
Okay.
CRWC. It's a great pool, fastest pool in the state, and we've been there for 5 years, I think now.
Okay.
So what you don't see behind Chris, you got like chalkboards and whiteboards just with like lines crossed and like pairings and spreadsheets all over the place. Is that right?
That is the case, yeah. Along with a lot of maps of the state of Iowa. So, yeah.
Cool.
So a question on that. You mentioned before we got on, you're talking basketball and regional pairings and things. Yeah. Help explain to our audience how the postseason works for basketball. I know when I played 26 years ago, it seemed like it was more pods with similar team geographic area, and you play those district and then move on. Is it still like that, or is it more based on the points accumulated throughout the season now?
I would say it's still a version of that. I'm going to talk with my hands a lot because there's just like so we still have our 4 classifications. Basketball is an all-in tournament. So everybody is vying throughout the season for good positioning. But then the layer that we added 3 years ago was our own rankings. So we have a selection committee made up of Hall of Fame championship coaches, some media members, all from different corners of the state. We meet every week, all season long, to determine a top 10. And then because we still use 8 sub-states to determine those 8 qualifiers for the state basketball tournament at Wells Fargo Arena, we bring in those top 8, and it's important to get in there and then figure out who 9 and 10 is. And then we basically pair it all the way down. So in class 4A, largest schools, you have your fewest numbers of teams. You're jockeying for a really good position. If you can be that number 1 seed ranked in a good sub-state, you know that you're going to have a really good shot at making the state tournament. That still factors in all the way down to 1A, where our smallest schools are, and we still have 145 basketball schools. But now we're talking about a sub-state that has 17, 18, 19 teams in it. And so if you're ranked, you're going to be at the top of the list and who everybody's shooting for. So it's a lot of like give and take all season long. We really are like mapping things with pins and magnets and trying to figure out who's going to go with who. And that's what it all came down to. And so soon enough on our website, we'll drop some of those and everybody will get to see who's all paired up with who.
The boys in Boone, they got their hands full.
Thank you.
All right, so from basketball over to state wrestling, obviously going to take over downtown Des Moines. People from all over the state come. It's a really special event, a cool event that we host here, Adam, at Wells Fargo Arena. Chris, any cool storylines heading into this state tournament that we should know about? Anybody going maybe for their 4th state title?
No, although Matt, you just hit like a couple of people were asking me about this a couple of days ago, and like the most recent potential 4-timers we've had have all lost. And it had never happened before the last few years, and now it seems to be like this recurring thing. We had 2 guys last year going for their 4th, and they both lost in the lead up. So that's becoming an increasingly difficult thing to do. There's some really big names and some really successful programs that won't surprise anybody. But as we saw at the state duels a couple of days ago, Southeast Polk, close to home, powerhouse program, they might have one of the best teams they've ever put together. So it'll be interesting to see, what they do and how many kids they can qualify for the state meet. And then, 1A is going to be wide open. All those small schools, if you ever get a chance to come down to Wells Fargo Arena as a neutral fan, you can just see all the colors in different corners of the arena, and just the 12 people pop up and roar anytime something happens. And that makes it special regardless of who's good.
Gosh, it really is a truly unique event, Adam. I mean, because it's so much different than a basketball game where there's one game happening. It's with wrestling, it's mats all over the place. You got to be paying attention who's going to which event where. It's really a neat spectacle, isn't it?
Yeah, if you haven't been there, I mean, it's information overload. You come in and you have the 8 mats going, and you got cheers coming from every corner of the arena, and then you try to look at the score and see, and you got to find the right mat and the right match and what the right score is. So it takes you 20 minutes to get your bearings and really figure out what you're doing. So the best advice is just come in, sit down, and soak it all in for a while before really trying to figure out what you're doing.
Yeah,
it's the most hair on fire event that we do. I don't know about you, Adam. I'd be interested to see what your crew all thinks down there. But there are literally thousands of people like working the event or at the event or participating in the event, in addition to the almost 100,000 people who are buying tickets over the course of the 4 days. So,
yeah, Very interesting. All right, Chris. So in December this last year, the Iowa High School Athletic Association, the Iowa High School Sports Network, released a joint statement resolving that dispute you guys had regarding the broadcast rights for the state tournaments. Can you maybe share with our audience what that means for viewers moving forward?
Yeah, there's layers upon layers to this thing, but the simplest way to explain it to people the casual fans who absorb our content when the championships come around, is that after baseball this year, the Athletic Association will regain or reacquire its own media rights. So we will have the ability to put our state tournaments available for viewing and promotion wherever we decide to go, whether that's network TV for some events or streaming for other events or cable TV for other events. We inherited a couple contracts from the sports network. It's a pretty complicated deal, but after baseball, so the first thing that people will see on their computer / TV screen / streaming service will be football in the fall. So I've got 9 months basically to put together a football broadcast, and then we've got a handful of things after that. So we've been talking with as many people as possible to figure out what the best options are for us. The Athletic Association has been with the sports network since Wells Fargo Arena opened in 2006. So we've never had the ability to put something on a video board at a state tournament, or put signage up at anywhere we go, scorers tables, anything like that. It was all handed over to that arrangement for better and worse. And so now that we've resolved that situation, once we get through baseball, folks will see on the other side what that looks like.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm sure that it's got to be exciting for you guys. It's, like you said, it's a big overtaking to take that back, but like you said, a lot more presence in these tournaments, and something that I'm sure you guys are excited to have back in your control.
Most definitely. And I mean, it's people like Adam, Chris Connolly, that we can pick brains and be like, what's this event look like when somebody else brings it in? And we've done that over the last handful of years, but there were only so many things that the Athletic Association could change or impact. And now there's no more excuse for that. We've got to crawl before we can walk, and we have a lot to learn in a very short period of time. But it's a great challenge. It's a great opportunity. And we're really excited to, be able to improve that in-venue experience and provide a better, more accessible broadcast setup.
So, Chris, when do the school's media rights expire and yours take over? So a lot of schools are broadcasting their regular season games on YouTube, and it's been a great asset for all of us to be able to watch our local schools. At what round of the tournament action does that turn back over and they're not allowed to do that anymore?
Great question. It is right as the postseason begins.
Okay.
So the Athletic Associations, us and the girls union, similar format. We take over the control, if you want to view it that way, of what that looks like. But 5 years ago, and it's expanded or evolved every year since then, we launched a video access program. So schools on our side of things who aren't with NFHS Network and want to continue to do their own thing, we now have an opportunity and a venue for them to do that. And then starting this year, we actually launched this thing called Showcase on our website. And we just ran it again last week, 2 weeks ago, for regional duels, and keep an eye on it during district wrestling and then basketball, of course, because there's so many games all over the state. On our state Showcase, we were able to lower the fee to schools. They still get 50% of the money back, but they give us the embed or the feed. So if you want to watch like a red zone version, 15 games on one web page, you can come to our website and watch it all for free. So
that's great.
Trying to make that available. We've had a handful of sponsors step forward and make that possible. So it has both been able to lower the price for video producers, whether that's a school, a student group, a local media organization. It's lowered that price for them and the path to entry, and it's been able to just exponentially grow the audience for that. During football, we had almost 90 games available for free on our website for anyone to watch.
Nice.
We, of course, encourage people to attend the games in person. I mean,
we do. We love a ticket.
We want people to go support their student athletes. But if you can't make it, or it's out of town, or grandma wants to watch the game, go to the Athletic Association website.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, it's dual pattern. We just want people to be able to support it, and the more that they watch, we think they'll come to the events.
It's incredible. I mean, you can get on there on a Friday night football game and you'll see 4,000 or 5,000 people watching a high school stream. It's pretty incredible how many people are tuning in. And like you said, Chris, how the technology has changed to adapt to this kind of world that we're living in and just making it more accessible to people from all over, right?
Yeah. And I would say on the positive thing, since this is an events-centric broadcast, we've studied this now a handful of years since we started this video access program. And there has not been any link between more people watching online and fewer people attending the game. Weather might impact things, especially because a lot of what we do is outdoors. But positive is positive. And if people are interested in an event, they both attend and watch.
Well, speaking of attending events, something that you guys also made news in over the past year was state baseball moving over 3A and 4A. Was it from Iowa City over to Sioux City? Is that correct?
So we went from Iowa City to Cedar Rapids last year for 1 year.
Okay.
And now we will go to Sioux City for 1 year.
Okay.
And then we will return to Cedar Rapids for 3 years.
Okay.
We are caught in this limbo of facilities being used for other purposes and or renovating. This has been an issue for anybody who's got a little bit of background in what we do since Major League Baseball took over scheduling of minor league baseball 4 years ago or so. Blackout dates and being able to reserve dates is a little bit greater challenge and a little bit greater investment for the minor league ballparks for what that looks like. And our tournament plays so many games in such a short period of time that there just really are not that many facilities that have been available. And so that just creates a challenge in where we go. And part of the reason we've been bouncing around a little bit. So we will go to Sioux City in July for 3A and 4A. And we are very fortunate that they are excited to host, excited to have the event out there. And we've never had a state tournament in Sioux City before, which is hard to believe.
So will that be at where the Explorers play their games at that facility?
Exactly right. I'm told J.D. Schulten is out of eligibility, but we'll see if he can make his way out of the bullpen.
That was a fun story to follow over the past year. Well, maybe he'll make a return. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Nice. So how has that switch been from going from everything at Principal Park to spread out? Like you said, it is just such a condensed tournament where everything's happening all at once. But has that been good for you guys to have everything's kind of split up?
It's been really positive to experience different things. And I think we're in facilities that better fit the event. The first couple of years we were out of Principal Park, there were just comments about, well, we're missing this or we're missing this. And it was such a big, beautiful ballpark. And it is. But our games over the course of the 20 years that we were at Principal Park, we averaged just under 1,000 fans per game. And that place seats over 12,000. So there are ballparks that a little bit better fit our event and what we're doing. And we've been in different communities now, obviously, somewhat out of necessity. But I think it's allowed us to figure out what works for state baseball. And obviously, Carroll's been the constant on the small school side of things. And that's been a lot of fun. It's night and day from what Principal Park is. Again, for better and worse, depending on your perspective. But it's been really good.
I would say as someone who's invested in downtown Des Moines and here every day, I hated to see it leave Principal Park because it was easy to jump down there and see the games and really enjoy it. However, as an athlete back in the 90s playing at Carroll, I couldn't think of a better place to host it because the community all seems to rally around it, and it's a nice intimate atmosphere. Carroll Ballpark is a great place.
Agreed. And we found really good, Dwayne Banks, when we were in Iowa City, was really good. And I mean, we'd fill it out with those 3A and 4A big games, which is always exciting. And Vets now in Cedar Rapids is as this year's host and a future host, great fit, kind of a smaller version of what Principal Park could offer. Something, as you know, Adam, better than anybody else, is just that Principal Park is now able to do other things with those dates. Yep. And they are able to not play 28 games on that grass that is very precious in a very short period of time, and potentially have to deal with weather delays and worry about their AAA ball club. And so it really does go both ways. And I think that it's been ultimately probably a positive thing for them as well. And so it's all good.
Sure.
Yeah. I know, with the girls, they have their softball tournament up in Fort Dodge, and it's just that facility just holds it really well.
Yes.
But softball also moves a lot faster. Those games are a little quicker, so you can get people in and out a little bit more. But to have the boys tournament at these really high-end facilities, I think that was probably the big thing you guys had to keep in mind too, was just making sure that these tournaments are held at a very high standard too, right?
That is the hope, and this facility has been more than up to the task. Something we have figured out since the COVID era is that people have no idea what a crowd actually looks like, which is a funny side effect of all of this. But depending on how many tickets you're selling, people are like, "Well, just put it at this high school," and it's like that's not how that works in terms of seating and facilities and infrastructure. So the places that we have gone have been up to the task.
And then kind of lastly, too, we noted that golf has also been in discussion about moving those 3A, 2A, 1A seasons to the fall.
So it isn't moving ultimately. So no change. So if you're learning about this for the first time from Matt, just ignore it totally. It was a long process, Matt. I mean, we went through multiple steps and years of discussion, but before the move was made, and then ultimately our school's feedback, PGA feedback, golf advisory feedback, our board getting discussions in their corners of the state. Ultimately, they decided that they wanted to leave it where it is. So the only thing that moved, it was a joint move in planning. The only thing that moved was girls tennis, and that will indeed move to the fall starting this year. But boys golf stays where it is. So if you're a small school boys golfer, you are still in the spring, and if you're a 4A boys golfer, you are in the fall.
What went into wanting to make that move? Was it to lessen the congestion in the spring sports when you've got track and everything else going on and baseball getting ready to start?
Based on feedback, that was a top 3 concern for like over a decade. Was spring schedule congestion. And because of the 2 organizations set up in Iowa, that spring when we were offering essentially 8 sports, finding dates that things didn't overlap or collide or cause confusion or issues, let alone graduation, award ceremonies, anything, final exams, things going on at schools, it was almost impossible to have any kind of flexibility. Now there will be a little bit more with girls tennis moving to the fall, but it was just an effort to try to relieve that congestion. And, on our side of things, it was exciting to potentially have our boys play in the fall, coming out of summer, potentially playing their best golf at really nice golf courses. Ultimately, that wasn't how it was going to go. And, everybody's got their own reasons for that, but we move on and I think it'll still be a positive thing in the spring once we roll it back out this year.
Good stuff. Cool. All right. Before we let you go, Chris, I know Adam wants to go over a few things as we talk about what state tournaments coming to Wells Fargo Arena, just things for people that are attending to keep in mind. Adam, you want to start with a few things?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is buy your tickets in advance. HiVTix.com has the tickets on sale now for each session of state wrestling. Boys basketball, I think, is going up on Friday. So buy your tickets in advance. It's the easiest way to do it. You don't have to stand in line when you get down here. The most important thing with the ticket, though, whether you buy it here or there, in advance, you must have it in your Apple or Google Wallet. So screenshots do not let you in. A lot of times we'll have mom or dad buy the ticket. They'll send their kid with somebody else. They'll just screenshot the QR code quick and send it. That will not work with our scanners anymore. It has to be into an Apple or Google Wallet. So pay attention to that. Clear bag policy. Don't bring in a backpack. Don't bring in your purse. Make sure it's a clear bag or a small clutch. Concessions are cashless. So make sure you're bringing a debit card, credit card. If you are sending cash with your kid, we can exchange it for a gift card that they can then use. So they'll have to go to a concession stand at Section 112 and get that cash put onto a gift card. And the biggest thing for state wrestling is that north entrance is an exit only. So everybody that will enter for state wrestling will either be via the skywalk or the south entrance. The north, what we found is that's the best way to just exit only, get people out, and then we can get people back in for the next session through the south and the skywalk. So
it's great.
Yeah, do not approach those north doors.
It's great that way. That's been, I know some people walking out of the northwest lot. I totally understand that walking the extra 200 yards in the cold is not always the most fun thing, but for the purposes of the event, and especially as rolling as the schedule is, that's been an awesome change.
I will say, if you do have ADA accommodations and it's difficult for you to get down to that south, you can approach those doors and we'll handle that at that point in time. But for the majority of fans, please go to the south or the Skywalk.
Good tips. Anything else from you, Chris, for people to keep in mind?
No, we're really excited for this winter season, especially, the sports network side of things. It's kind of the last go round with this before we really have to put the pedal to the metal, but we're still trying to make a few changes as we can and see what works. And so even for basketball this year, people will notice a different layout on the new court from last year. We'll have a little bit different layout on the floor, behind it and around it. And, we're just trying to do anything we can to improve these events. And it's really great to have partners and facilities that can host all these people and all these moving parts in such a short period of time.
Awesome. Well, he's Chris Cuellar, Communications Director for the Iowa High School Athletic Association. Chris, good luck over the next couple of weeks with these state tournaments. We'll be thinking about you and hope to see you down at Wells Fargo Arena.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Always good to talk to Chris Cuellar from the Iowa High School Athletic Association. I love coming down for these state tournaments. Even if you don't have a team in the tournament, it's fun to come down and see what these high-level athletes, especially wrestling, and especially as you get into these girls and boys state tournaments, really incredible talent that we have here in the state of Iowa.
It really is. I like to take a day off during that week and bring my son down to watch the games. We'll look at the pairings and kind of see what teams are playing when and see if there's any college recruits we want to watch or, other key storylines. But it's nice to just sit down for a day and watch game after game and see the different styles of basketball. And it's a lot less painful now that they have the shot clock, which is a great addition to high school basketball.
I just took my daughter down to a Bondurant girls game just across the street from our house. And shot clocks. I hadn't been to a high school game for a while. And I was like, yes, shot clocks, finally.
It's great. And in fact, my son, the ninth grade uses shot clocks as well. And so when you get a game with a shot clock, it moves along better. They keep the ball movement. Then when you get to one of those gyms that doesn't have the shot clock and they don't execute it for that game, it can somewhat get bogged down a little bit. So it's been a good change. And
you get a lot more scoring too because you got to move the ball. So this game I was at was in the 70s. I was like, wow, this is fantastic. So wrestling starts what week? Next week?
Starts next week. Yep, next Wednesday. It goes Wednesday through Saturday.
And then basketball, girls and boys start the following weeks.
So we've got wrestling Wednesday through Saturday next week, which starts on the 19th. And then we've got a week off with no tournaments. And then we have girls basketball for a week and then boys for a week.
Got it. Cool. Well, you guys will be busy with those tournaments. And then over on the expo side, the convention center side, I know you guys have some big events coming February 13th through the 16th. You got the Des Moines Home and Garden Show coming back that Thursday through Sunday, kind of spread out throughout the Iowa Event Center footprint, right?
Yeah, it's a big week for us. They started moving in, right away Monday morning to get ready to open the show. The gardens that they have there, you'll have everything you need for your spring home and garden projects that you're putting together. It's just a great show. People come down and whether it be, leaf guards or garden stuff or kitchen remodels. I mean, there's something for every home project that you'd be looking to do.
Probably find something you didn't know you needed down there.
Exactly.
And then February 28th through March 2nd, the All Iowa Auto Show takes over the EMC Expo Center.
Yeah, always a good show. Well attended. Get some different car dealers in there that are looking to show off their newest models and some used cars as well. I think they bring down there. But yeah, it's most of the major auto dealers are here, and it's good to be able to come through and maybe window shop in the climate controlled area instead of being outside in February.
Yeah, great idea. And then the Iowa Deer Classic kind of wraps things up as we head into spring, March 7th through the 9th.
Yeah, that's one of our highest attended shows. The peak time is that Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. But Friday, which is ladies' night, $5 tickets is a great night to come down. Sunday is a great day to get down here. It's always pretty full and a great show. They've got seminar speakers and including I think it's John Stutzman. He was a Paralympic gold medalist. Cool. That will be here on Saturday. So they've got some unique hunters and accomplished Olympians coming down.
I remember, I think, seeing his name in the last Olympics where he is he the one that shoots with his feet?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. That's awesome. Cool. Well, always something for everybody down at the Iowa Event Center, and some cool things. If, like you said, get out of the cold and get into the EMC Expo Center, the Iowa Event Center for all these fun events. And then HiVTix.com is a place to get any of these early admission for these events, right? And I'm sure they take walk-ups as well, correct?
Yeah, for most events. So the Des Moines Home and Garden Show, they do have their own ticketing system that they use. So you go there, or you can buy them at the door. But the All Iowa Auto Show, Deer Classic, you can go to HiVTix.com.
All right, for Adam Flack, for Chris Cuellar with the Iowa High School Athletic Association, I'm Matt Van Winkle. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of All Access presented by the Iowa Event Center.